Senator Gold, we're about to start our second round of questions. You want to continue taking some questions?
With great pleasure.
Senator Plett.
It's a nice thing about having a mask on, Senator Gold. You could not say that with a straight face with great pleasure. Senator Gold, you said earlier in answer to one of our colleagues' questions, you talked about having respect for other views and other opinions. And I've worked together with you now for a few years, and I believe that. Your exchange with Senator Housakis today earlier, however, didn't show that. It clearly showed that you had, and I want to choose my words carefully, but I would say some disdain for partisan views that you didn't share, and I know you're shaking your head, and if that isn't true, I will accept that. However, the exchange, if somebody just listened to the exchange, that wouldn't seem to be to be how you feel. Senator Gold, I'm going to quote for you an exchange that took place on CTV last Thursday night, where one of your colleagues from the other place showed his disdain for certain views. Evan Solomon asked the Minister of Justice, and I quote, "A lot of folks said, I just don't like your vaccine mandates, and I donated to this. Now it's illegal. Should I be worried that the bank can freeze my account? What's your answer to that?" Evan Solomon asked. Minister Lametti responded, and again I quote, "Well, I think if you are a member of a pro-Trump movement, donating to this type of thing, not to Trump, but to this type of thing, then you ought to be worried." End of quote. Then you ought to be worried. Leader, in other words, if you hold an unacceptable view, you should be afraid that your bank account will be frozen, is in essence what Minister Lametti said. Now, you say that you believe in other people having views other than your own, and that's acceptable. Can you tell us, Senator Gold, does the Prime Minister share your views? Does Minister Lametti share your views? Because his actions and his words would not indicate that. How can this comment from Minister Lametti be viewed as anything other than political retribution?
Senator Gold.
Well, thank you for your question and for your confidence in my respect for different views, which I do have. The Prime Minister was really clear, indeed, most recently as yesterday, in drawing a sharp distinction between political dialogue of sharply opposing views, even angry dialogue, and actions that threaten the security and safety of individuals in the country and that persist even after they're declared illegal. With regard to the financing issue, I have been clear in this chamber as a representative of the government that the position of the government and the reading of the act that the government and the reading of the act and the regulations is that only if you continue to fund illegal activities after February 15th are you at risk of having your bank account frozen. People were warned, and if they stayed and continued either to engage in these activities for whatever reasons, ideological or other, they have broken the law and are subject to that possible sanction. And again, I repeat that of the thousands and thousands and thousands of donations that were made for many weeks prior to the proclamation of a state of emergency, only 200, the number may very well be growing since I last got the number, but only a few hundred initiatives were taken, and as the government stated, focusing on those organizing or contributing significantly or accumulating the funds to continue to be used to support the illegal activity.
Senator Plett.
Only a few hundred, you say. You've said that a number of times today. Like these 200 people are insignificant. There was only a few, a very, very few people in Ottawa at any time that were flying a Confederate flag or possibly promoting a swastika. Only a very, very few. And yet you have constantly, Leader, been referring to those few as being the leaders of this movement. It seems that when it serves your purpose, 200 people having their bank accounts frozen is somewhat insignificant, and it's only 200. But if it's only 2 or 5 or 10 out of hundreds of thousands of people that were part of this protest across the country, that is very significant. I find that strange. The Prime Minister, Leader, the Prime Minister called these people a fringe group, called them racist, and he called them misogynistic. From when they left Vancouver all the way through to here, that's what they were. I find this so difficult, Leader, and I'm wanting to give you the benefit of the doubt. I've quite frankly given up with the rest of government, but I still would like to give you the benefit of the doubt that we still are living in a society where everybody's views are appreciated and respected if they are not racist and indeed misogynistic. But just because Justin Trudeau says they are, doesn't make it so, Leader. But Leader, clearly I'm not going to get a clear answer on that issue, as we haven't been getting very clear answers on many issues here today. I'm going to ask you another question. And, well, I will ask that, sir. I will ask that. And instead of me, every time somebody says something, I'll keep on talking. And you can keep on interrupting. And I will continue to talk. And you can continue interrupting too. I have no problem, and I won't do this. As we deal with the Emergencies Act and its ramifications, I keep thinking about how our country got to this point. And I keep coming back to how this all started. It began with Canadians protesting, as is absolutely their right to do. In any liberal democracy. And the Trudeau government's actions in dealing with COVID-19 and this government's inability to follow the science and bring forward a plan to end the mandates. Now, without question, you have said it, others have said it, and we all agree. We're tired. We are tired. We fight amongst friends. We fight amongst families. We have differences of opinion. Some family members believe you should be vaccinated. Others believe there's a conspiracy theory. We all, I'm sure every one of us at least knows people if they aren't in your own families. So we are tired of that. We recognize that. But that doesn't make Canadians bad people when they say, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this government telling me what to do. Senator Gold, Canadians would like to understand what exactly the Trudeau government believes is the difference between a legal protest and an illegal protest. When did this protest become illegal? When Justin Trudeau decided it was legal? Senator McFedrin made a good point that for the longest time the trucks were held at bay. When did it become illegal? When all of a sudden they moved the blockades and let the trucks in? Who did that? At what point does a legal protest become an illegal protest in the eyes of Justin Trudeau?
Senator Gold.
Well, let me respond to your last question first, and then perhaps permit me to make a comment or two about some of the other remarks. The Act, the Emergencies Act itself, the declaration issued pursuant to it, and the regulations all draw a distinction between illegal protests, illegal assemblies, illegal actions, and lawful peaceful protests. It is well established in Canadian law that there is a difference between vigorous protest, even protest that is inconvenient, as it often is, as we know here on the Hill, and those that are accompanied by violence, threats of violence, rhetoric that is demeaning and hurtful, and actions of intimidation and harassment of ordinary citizens. The law sets out, and our jurisprudence sets out, the difference between lawful and legal and illegal protests. And it's not, quote, Justin Trudeau that decides. And it wasn't Justin Trudeau alone that decided. This was the decision to invoke the Emergencies Act, as I've said, and I will simply repeat, came.
That's not the question. When did it become illegal? That's the question.
Strictly speaking, some of the activities became illegal upon the proclamation of the state of emergency. It was only illegal to continue to stay in areas like the parliamentary precinct when the tools were finally made available to the authorities to protect our parliamentary precinct and the neighborhoods, may I add, where people live and work. So that is the narrow legal question. The broader question, which I was trying to answer, was that the circumstances arose that and became quite clear for some time before the invocation that whatever might have started out as a peaceful protest degenerated, morphed into something that was far from a peaceful protest, and as I outlined in my speech and in the declaration, is an intolerable situation in any free and democratic society. If I may briefly, though, correct some of the, or address, I should say, respectfully, some of the other things that you said. I never said 200 individuals were insignificant. What I said was that of the thousands and thousands and thousands of donations, it is a relatively small percentage of those that have been targeted for investigation and that were targeted and had the results of their bank accounts temporarily frozen. What I intended, and I thought, clearly not, but what I intended to communicate through that was that this was not a blanket witch hunt against people who, for whatever reasons, whatever ideological reasons, decided to support this protest in January or in early February. But as of February 14th, those who continue to, or for the first time, became engaged in the activity that was deemed illegal by a law of Canada, then they, and only they, are the ones that are being targeted by the measures, target is the wrong word, they're subject to the measures that are promulgated under the Act. So that's that point. Nor, honorable colleague, have I said in this chamber, or do I believe, for what that's worth, that everybody who is in Ottawa or elsewhere or on highways cheering on the convoys associate themselves with the extremist and repugnant views represented by the signs that I've described. Never said it, don't believe it. Prime Minister doesn't believe it either. But what is indisputable is that the residents of Ontario, of Ottawa, and the people of Canada were exposed to folks who at the one and the same time were bathing in hot tubs and having their little children bounce on whatever they're called. Thank you, bouncy castles. While others were promoting ideas that are hurtful and repugnant to every value that we all stand up for in Canada. And again, I repeat, it is not to tar everybody in the same breath. Would never do that. But we cannot deny what comes out of the mouth of key mobilizers and organizers of this convoy. You cannot rewrite history. You cannot untweet or take or delete the social media messages of people that have hundreds of thousands of followers, and are encouraging them to join this protest when their agenda, they have made clear they're proud of their agenda. And that's what I was trying to point out, not to tar Canadians who came here because they're tired of COVID measures. It's to say that the threats to our security that gave rise to the need to invoke that may not be fully able to be resolved today, at least according to the information and the advice that we're getting from our police, the police community, who we charge with protecting us.